All right, let's see if this works this time. This is 3. They've knocked us off now twice from Facebook from doing this and sharing this. It turns out to be pretty important information. I got a fellow knower, not just believer, but knower about Bigfoot, Donivon Jennings. Hello, Melanie Jennings. Is that related to you?
Oh, yeah, that's my sister.
Hey, Sister Melanie. So, and I hopefully there'll be some people. I got to invite some people too myself here. So it's been a really strange evening. I went to go see my mom. You were patient with me because, well, you know, I had to go see my mom late night and check on her. They changed her room. She's in a smaller room now, and they're going to use up all her money as it goes. And anyway, so I spent time there, and I did bring in my P900 and filming her and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, and she wanted some stuff. She needed some stuff, you know what I mean? As far as like food and that kind of thing. So anyways, turns out on the way back, my headlights stopped working. They stopped working, and they wouldn't. But they turned back on. Hey, Randy Bell, thanks for joining us, and Clifton George, thank you. Or is it Clifton George? Anyways, yeah, and then but when I get back, the lights are turned on, and then so I had to drive all the way from the rehab to back home with just my hazard lights on, you know what I mean? Because there's no headlights. I get home, they turn on. And then I get here, and one of my son's mice are dead, so I got to deal with that. And now this is our 3rd attempt to have this done. So I just want to let you know we can hear you rustling around too. So, but anyways, okay. Hey, so this is going to be a great conversation / interview with a very interesting man. I got a chance to spend a couple hours last night learning about his great experiences. Right now, you're looking at an amazing night image that he captured. You can't see this unless you handy to a computer. You're close to a computer, because I know you're talking via phone, right, or the computer.
Right. Let's see.
Oh, I didn't call you by phone, so I should have used the phone. I didn't use.
Yeah, when you called me, I answered on my phone, messenger on my phone, but I've got a tablet here.
Well, you get on tablet and either go to Michael Adams, or I think also see if it's posting on your group. And to remind people what your group is, it's North American Primate Hominid Research Organization. How long you've had that?
I started about a year ago.
Well, you got some great images in that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited about that. Really happy to meet you. Really, right now, I feel like, you know, after talking to you, it's like, oh my gosh, someone's on the same page with me. Usually people are beating the snot out of me. You know what I mean?
That was the whole idea of starting a web page, is try to put everybody in touch with each other and hopefully build a nationwide database, and try to figure out if what I was fighting was an anomaly or if it was everywhere. And slowly but surely more people are kind of starting to come forward now that somebody's taking that first step and is admitted to seeing the things that are out there. Other people are stepping forward, and a lot of the pieces are falling into place. It's not just they're not just in my area, they're everywhere from what I'm starting to see.
Yeah. Welcome, William Elliott and Philip Frick. I don't know if you know any of these folks. Can you see that posted? Is it running on your group?
Yeah, it's showing live. I'm looking at it on my webpage now.
So it's on your YouTube channel, your Facebook group?
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. this is be good. So there, like I say, you're joined, and so these must be all be your folks, because a lot of these, I know Randy and I don't know anybody else. It must be all coming from your end. So, anyways, this is going to be pretty interesting. So, hopefully, can you see the image that I have posted?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's when we nicknamed Michelangelo there.
So, you know what, man? Why don't you tell us a little bit about you, man? You said you've been doing this for a couple decades. Give us some a year, you know, your experiences, your first sighting, that kind of thing.
I guess really it got started years and years ago when me and my sister and some of our childhood friends were playing in some woods close to where we lived, and we encountered one that was hunting either fish or
Hold on.
crayfish in a creek.
Did you say you were with your sister?
Yeah, she was with us whenever we came across it. It was me, her, and some of our childhood friends.
So Melanie saw this along with you?
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Is that true, Melanie? I've only had that encounter once where another person saw the same thing at the same time as me. So that's nice that you have that confirmation. So, I mean, at the time, it must have been tormenting and scary and all that. But
well, when we first saw it, we were kids, and the first thing we thought was a bear. But of course, in that area there were no bear, and it's you mention something like that when you're a kid, and most adults are just going to shrug it off as fantasy or just kids being kids. But we know what we saw.
Right. And what did you see? Tell us.
It was when we got into the area where it was in the creek at. We're actually going in there to swim in that part of the creek, and it was in the water, and its back was turned to us, and it started standing up. I guess it heard us coming, and when it stood up, and it just kept standing, and it turned, looked at us, and then turned around, and it was going like 3 steps. I mean, it was one of the fastest things I've ever seen.
Did you actually see the steps?
Oh yeah. I mean, it went right up the creek, and just like it went 2 bounds up the creek, 1 bound off to the right to dry land, and was gone.
Okay, so you saw the legs.
Yep.
Okay. Well, the reason why I asked that, because sometimes people, I mean, I've had the experience where I've seen one travel 100 plus yards. The only thing I saw was that I didn't see the legs or the shrubs and all that ways.
What really gave it away was the splashes in the creek. Like the first 2 steps were in the creek. They were probably 8 feet apart. I mean, it was like an enormous stride. The first 2 steps was up the middle of the creek. The third one, it landed on the creek bank, and then it was in the woods, and that was the last I saw of it.
So, I mean, after that, how old were you when that happened?
Oh, good God, probably, I don't know, maybe 11 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood.
So, I mean, when did you start really kind of well, maybe there's something to this, we're going out?
Well, man, I've been kind of fascinated with it my whole life, and I never really went out and researched it, so to speak. I was content with watching other people do it, but then the more I watched, I was like, well, these shows seem to be more about ratings and money, but this guy here seems to be on the up and up. And I woke up one day and decided, you know what, I'm going to go out and find out, if what I remember seeing what I thought I saw as a child was actually what I thought it was. And turns out it was that and a lot more. And once you start down that rabbit hole, there's no coming back.
It's so true. It's almost like a spiritual connection, and it becomes an obsession.
Well, that's what I tell people all the time. If I haven't saw the things I have pictures of and saw them on 2 eyes, I wouldn't spend hours at a time in the woods in freezing cold rain, and blistering hot heat, wrapped up with leeches and ticks. I'd have my butt back at home on the couch.
Amen. Yeah, once you see one of these things, it's kind of life. It's more than life changing. It's.
Oh yeah.
It's sometimes I wonder if that's what they're doing too. They're playing a game with us to get us to.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, these things are so far involved and intelligent in so many aspects. It's, there's no doubt in my mind. Us going out there looking for them's a game to them. They're just that aware and that smart.
Right. Well, brother, once again, it's Donivon Jennings. If I seem a little discombobulated, I am, because it's.
That's called life.
Yeah, well, you see your mother, and she's 88, and they cut off her freaking leg, and you see them sucking all her money away, and her life falling apart.
I feel your pain. Me and my sister, we lost our mother about a year and a half ago to cancer. So
yeah, a lot of hugs.
We've been through it.
A lot of hugs and kisses tonight, me fighting back the tears. So it's kind of, I believe we're supposed to do this, and hopefully it's not the only time of this conversation, but it's hard for me to focus on it. So, anyways, let's talk about you more, man. I'm gonna let you what do you have to share? What do you have to say about this whole thing, man? Because we can go on about our experiences. I mean, I could share with people all my experiences, and I will. But you've had multiple experiences and encounters, and so have I, and it becomes whatever. So let's talk about what you think is going on and what your experiences are. Maybe even tell us a little bit about this image that we're looking at. What are we looking at?
The biggest problem, media has its, it helps, it also hinders. One of the biggest things that researchers have to battle against is mainstream media. Yeah. When somebody says Bigfoot, the first thing that pops into mind is the Patty image or Harry and the Hendersons. And don't get me wrong, those bipedal creatures are out there, and trust me, they're there. I have no doubt. I've seen them. But this goes so much deeper than that. Right now, we're at a total of 7 subspecies of bipedal creatures. And, you've got to get the public, it's hard enough trying to get the majority of the public to come to terms with the fact that we've got some type of bipedal ape out there, going through the woods of North America, much less 7 or 8 other species of them out there, Right. And they're there. I've got picture after picture after picture of these things,
Yeah.
And it's like I tell everybody, you can be a naysayer, that's fine. If that's your belief, then, so be it. I'm not here to try to prove anything to anybody. I started doing this to prove something to myself.
Amen.
And then I started reaching out, like I said, that's part of what the Facebook page is about, trying to find other people who have witnessed the things that I have. They're trying to figure out, put the pieces of the puzzle together and find out what these things are. Are they all interconnected somehow? Are they all subspecies of one main type of animal out there? Are these things interdimensional? Or are they, nobody knows. There's so many theories out there. I've heard some really wild theories. Believe me, I mean, there's not a whole lot that I haven't heard about these creatures.
Sure.
But they're definitely there, and I've said it many times. Anybody that doubts it, I'll be glad to take them out anytime they want to go, and I promise you, they will come back a believer. I've done it on more than one occasion.
Now, how often have you seen these things? Do you have any idea?
Oh, just about every time we go out, we interact with them.
I'm talking about seeing them now, not just interacting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just about every time me and my adopted son go out, we have actual first-hand visual confirmation of them. I mean, we got an area that I have to keep, it's a undisclosed area because, the homeowner, I made agreement with them that I would keep it that way. But we've been feeding them in that area for almost a year now. I've actually set up a feeding station, and they've come to know that when I show up, I'm bringing food. And I'm assuming at some point maybe they were migrating through that area, but since I have actually set up that feeding station, they have stayed put, and the population has grown. And it's not just one type. I've had pictures of multiple types out there at night feeding. But anytime we go out there and do an all-night camp, they'll either surround the tent, throw strip the tent all night. They will howl. They can sound like a child playing. They can sound like a cow, a 900-pound frog. I mean, they can imitate any kind of animal or person just about you can think of.
Right. So, where do you go with this? You know what I mean? Because it's like last night we were on a roll, but that's because you and I have our experiences. And we're sharing our experiences and what we're going through and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, well, there's a lot of people out there who have seen, the same things that we have, and they have either accidentally or on purpose caught them on film. But, they haven't come forward, and, and nobody can blame them. 99% of people who ever come forward, they just a normal, I guess what you would call, if there is such a thing, a normal Sasquatch sighting, is ridiculed to the point of, it's cost people careers and jobs. It's like I don't know, it's almost like an underlying smear campaign to get anybody who comes forward with any information or says they saw one of these things. And there's got to be a reason behind that. But you've got to look past all that and plow ahead, which is pretty much what I'm doing at this point. I am trying to reach out, and I've met a lot of good people doing this who have confirmed a lot of my suspicions about these creatures, and I assure you, they are there, and this is going to make a lot of people mad that are listening. Some of these creatures, I'm sure that, they may be these big, furry, warm, cuddly brothers of the woods that you like to think they are, but they are a subspecies of these animals that they will kill you. They will hunt you down and you will disappear. It's already happened in national forests and parks nationwide. Don't be fooled. All these things are not here to be your friend, and I think that's got a lot to do with the government clampdown on their existence, because if it ever goes public that any of these creatures can be held accountable for missing people, somebody in the government position has got to be held accountable for that.
Could be. It's there's all that possibility. So, and right now, folks, what you're looking at is an image that I took, and if you look real close, there's like you saw this last night, Donovan. We were talking about how mean and bad and ugly these things get.
Oh yeah.
This is transparent too. This is like, I think these things are mostly spiritual in nature. I think they can manifest in a physical form at certain times, but most of the time they are in some kind of other dimension type of thing. But why do I take images of these all the time? And here's this guy, his two eyes and the big freaking fangs, and his buddy's in front of it. You know what I mean? It's like not looking too happy that it took a picture of. I took a picture of it.
Well, that goes back to my previous statement. You may be right on the nose, or that may be a close thing from what they are. I mean, nobody knows. And until we can get all the naysayers and all the people that are out there doing this to try to get kind of on the same page and start sharing what they know and what they have found, and make a concentrated effort to put the pieces of the puzzle together, we're never getting there.
Right. And here's the thing. You're going out in the woods. I mean, how deep in the woods do you go?
It depends.
Generally,
sometimes a mile, sometimes 100 yards. These things are a lot more places than what people realize.
Right. This image that people are looking at right now, and you'll find that most of my images are actually in my town. This is this is right next to a grocery store, and there's a ravine down there, and there's woods. But you're going up in a mile. I'm catching them in town. Something's not adding up when you hear all these people and this guy saying, "Hey, we got to go have this big Bigfoot adventure thing." You know what I mean? Because we got to go hundreds of miles or in the woods and all that. And
I have a theory on that.
I'm proving that you don't. I mean, I'm seeing these things and filming them. So
well, I think if the habitat is there, they will stay there as far away as they can from humans to stay out of sight. But as you and everybody else knows, their natural habitats are dwindling everywhere. Okay, you take that, and then you add in the fact that these things are an apex predator. Okay, there's nothing above them in the food chain out there, so they have no natural predators hunting them down to decline their population. So their populations are growing unchecked. So as their populations grow and their habitat decreases, there's going to be more and more human sightings and more human interactions. And it's just a matter of time before one of those interactions goes bad. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
right.
But I can leave my house right now, and I live in a small town, but I can leave my house and drive less than a mile to where there's a boat access on a local river, and I can sit out there on the dock. And if I sit there late enough, I'll start getting rocks thrown at me, hooted at, whistles. You can hear them walking on the opposite bank. I mean, they're everywhere. You just have to look.
Yeah, and you know what? And then, okay, you and I know that Bigfoot's real, right? We've seen something that we call Bigfoot is real. But
absolutely,
the problem is Bigfoot's never alone.
He's never what now?
He's never alone. And I'm not talking more Bigfoot. I'm talking there's other things.
Oh, absolutely. And and that's when I started researching the Bigfoot, hominid, and I went out looking like, of course, everybody else, this big patty looking guy or gal. And which I did see a couple of those. And I don't think there's quite as many of those as there are the other types. But in almost every photograph I've had of these types, there's a chimpanzee gorilla looking type, there's the baboon type, which are very aggressive, by the way. There's an orangutan type that we've witnessed. There's dwarfs. I've got pictures of some that are 6 to 8 inches tall. There's what we call a pie face. I mean, it's unreal, the different types of these creatures are out there, and they all seem to intermingle together in the woods.
Sorry about that, folks. Anyways, some of these, I mean, like I just took some images of ones where, you can, it's all hairy around the face, the head, but just around the eyes and the cheeks.
Right.
And you're like, is that a dude in a suit? But it can't be a suit because there was nobody in the suit when I took the picture.
No, I mean, and that's another thing too. That's a really dangerous game to be playing.
I was only like 20 yards away from when I took the picture, so there was nobody there. So, well, go ahead. What you were saying there?
Yeah, I mean, people, tend to do hoaxes like that. I mean, it's not only it hurts everybody else, but it's dangerous. I mean, it really, because there's a lot of people out there who, they've got the mentality of, shoot first, ask questions later.
Right.
But
well, if I saw someone
there
with a suit, depending on my mood, either I would just laugh my head off and probably film it, or if I was in a bad mood, like you said, I might pick up a rock and throw it at me, right?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It all depends. You're right. It's stupid. Plus, it's unless it's wintertime, fall or whatever, and do it in the summertime when a lot of these sightings are really at their peak. Although I take a lot of photos of these things in the wintertime too, but
oh yeah. I mean, I've got pictures of them year round. I mean, about the only time I really don't get any good pictures of them is when it rains. I don't think they like rain a whole lot.
Well, that's interesting you say that. Now, I think that they do. I just think that it's what happens is that somehow they just kind of aren't there. First of all, we're not in the rain with them most of the time, right?
Right. Well,
they like water. They like water.
In the rain, but just not as many.
They like water, and in fact, it seems to me like they somehow travel through it. I mean, how is it that these things pop out of trees, man?
You know, I've got several theories, you know, and I'm still trying to work a lot of that out. And it's like I was telling you on the phone last night. I'll come up with a theory on something they do, and then I'll try to go out and collect data to either prove or disprove that theory. When I finally hit a wall, then I'll move on to the next theory and start the process all over. But, you know, these people that say, you know, well, I just seen one like he's materialized out of the ground, out of thin air. You know, I've witnessed something very similar to that, and these things will lay so tight to the ground. I mean, the side of their body that is on the ground will be literally flattened out. I've witnessed this, and they are so incredibly fast. They can go from that laying position to an upright, moving position, and so fast. I mean, it's almost supernatural how quick they can go from laying flat on their feet and gone.
You know, I don't know if I ended up posting it, but there was somebody badgering someone else and about the supernatural part of it. And, you know, this is one of these like, claiming to be, you know, I'm just going to follow the science and biology, the biological approach. And I'm like, you could do that all day long. You ain't going to find much of that attitude. The thing is, these things are more than just physical. There's times when they manifest physically, and you can see them as clear as day. And the detail. I mean, you got hair. You got hair.
Creatures that makes me want to agree with that. You know, well, but the scientific part of my brain wants to try and see around that to see what in our physical world a lot makes them gives them that capability. You know, I want to rule all that out first before I move on to that. You know, and you may be, like I said, 100% right. I'm not one to say I don't know everything there is about these creatures. Anybody that says they do is a lie.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, you know, when I've seen these things freaking manifest out of the ground, literally, or out of a tree, and I'm not just saying there was a hole in the tree or a big hole cavity for these things. They literally manifest, and I get pictures of all time of their head sticking out, but there's no body.
Absolutely, I've got pictures just like that.
I mean, there's something going on here it's beyond the physical. It's beyond biology, and I am someone who actually does have a science background. I was school for ecology, environmental science, and environmental management. I designed nature trails. I worked in the environmental consulting industry. So I have a science background, and I understand the scientific method, and it doesn't apply here.
Right. Well, I mean, and I agree. I mean, you know, evolution and science and the physical world around us can only be held accountable to a certain extent for any creature's abilities in our world. And you know, there very well may be a metaphysical, you know, attribute to these creatures. You know, I don't know. But that's part of what I am trying to do by doing what I've done on the Facebook page and reaching out to other researchers. I'm trying to see, you know, I mean, that's the only way we're ever going to find out.
Right. Well, I think we got to get honest about one thing here, and that is when it comes to the camera, and whether it's digital or celluloid, why does it pick up these entities that are literally at times no more than, like you said, you picked up one that was no more than 6 feet away from you, and I've had similar experiences.
Well, I tell you, I've had a lot of luck by modifying trail cams, and let me explain this a little bit. And anybody that's listening, I'll be glad. I've got my email and my home phone number on my webpage. I'll be glad to send you the directions, the pinouts, and everything. But the camera I like to use the most is a Tasco. But I'll take the camera apart and I will remove the infrared flash board off of the camera, and then I will attach a 8-conductor flat ribbon cable, solder it back in place on the camera where the board came from. I'll put 30-40 feet of ribbon cable out there, and then I'll resolder the infrared flash board at the other end. Now, what that allows me to do, I put my camera at point A and actually put the flash at point B, because these creatures are sensitive to infrared light. I promise you, they are. That makes them think that that flash that they're seeing is where the camera is, when the actuality is on the other side of them, and you can trick them that way.
Right. Interesting. Say that again so we all catch that, because that's because like your technique as a camera too is you don't like have it in a tree or anything. So.
No. I mean, I learned early on in the game. If you go out putting trail cams on trees, you're wasting your time. I mean, these guys climb trees. Okay, they know what grows on a tree and what don't, and they know a trail cam is an abnormality that shouldn't be there. I learned early on in the game, I put my trail cams on the ground, and I'll hide them under logs. I'll hide them under big rocks. You know, if you go out trying to catch a picture of these things and hunt them like an animal, you're done. You're wasting your time. You're never going to do it. You have to hunt these things like a human target. You have to outthink them. You have to be 2 steps ahead of them. If you're not, you're wasting your time. And I had to learn that the hard way. You know, I had to get sneaky in order to catch the images that you see now. Right. But as you can see, it paid off.
I'll go back. I've just been showing images of mine while we're talking, just so that the people see that, you know, we're you know, now you look at this quality of this. This is a nighttime. This is one of your trail camera images, right?
Right.
Tell us about this.
Hang on a second. Which one? That's not okay. There it is.
Yeah, you know the big fella there. It almost looks like a mama with her. But I don't know. It's the problem is, see, well, these are the children and it's mama, and I'm like, you know what? We don't know. It could be complete opposite, bro. You know.
Well, I do know that these things. We talked about this too. They like to hide their filters, and I'm sure there's other research. Well, I know there's other researchers who've seen this because they told me to have. They will stack up behind a tree. I've seen them. You know. Yes. One be on top of the other like one. Seven or eight of them stacked up.
Like a totem pole.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm totally convinced that totem poles they're not based on, you know, wolves and coyotes and eagles. I think they had just as much ability to do a decent drawing or carving as we do. I mean, they're just drawing. So you know what they're showing these entities, these spirits. I think there's a connection with familiar spirits too. When you look at these different, the human clans and tribes and how they had their own unique totem poles, and then you look at these entities in the forest and they're doing the same thing, and there's this really strong connection between the two.
Well, and you may be very well right. You know, a lot of the images I got, that's what they remind me of. They look like a totem pole almost, where they're stacked up.
Yeah, but we're in this one though that you have here. They're doing the kind of horizontal thing. Although there's things in the background, you can obviously this image is packed, but it may be hard for people to see. But if you spend some time really looking at this image, you'll see multiple entities.
Oh yeah. Whenever I post a picture on the page, I've got now to where I will, I may circle 1 or 2 to get people started, but I'm trying to get people to actually do the work themselves so they can learn what to look for.
Right. But, well, before we get into what to look for, I'm going to say thank you, Shane Hale, Trisha Wardrop, Jim Gregory, Daniel Pike, Madison Jennings. That must be somebody related to you. And,
that'll be my daughter.
Oh, hi, Madison. And Jeff I'm sorry, Jeff. I can barely read it. And it's got one of those crazy Dutch names, which my mom's maiden name is Van Nieuwhouse. So, the Vans. Anyways, let's talk about, how to go about doing this. I mean, what are we looking for when we're doing research?
Well, as you know, and most researchers know, that these things are mainly nocturnal, which is how they've stayed out of the public eye for so long. But when humans are asleep, they're out doing their thing, and when we're out doing our thing, they're asleep. Now that being said, there are some who do move around during the day, just not a lot. But there's this big debate going on now about what some people call cloaking. I'm not real sure. I know their some hair samples I personally have on hand are achromatic, which basically means that if one of these creatures is hidden in green shrubbery, whatever color light is reflected off of them, their fur and skin will redirect that same color light. It's almost like an environmentally reactive camouflage. But there's one thing that they can't hide, and that's their eyes. Their eyes will give them away every time.
That's
once
true.
You learn what to look for.
Look for the eyes. Look for the eyes.
Their eyes will give them away every time.
Now, some people say, "Oh, it's pareidolia," but
I hate that word. That's and then don't get me wrong. I mean, I know there's a lot of images out there that may be a clump of moss or something hanging out of a tree, but with today's technology, I mean, cell phones now have cameras that are like some of the best cameras that are out there compared to what was out there 10 years ago. So,
I just think that we as humans, have a terrible time parroting other people instead of thinking things through.
This is true.
We're really good at just parroting stuff. And how many people who throw out that term pareidolia even spent a significant amount of time to even understand what it is? And
exactly. Well, there's one thing pareidolia doesn't do, and that's get up and run off.
Right. Well, if not one thing pareidolia doesn't do to us, it doesn't have a head popping out of a tree.
No, it does not. And I've got, and pareidolia doesn't have eyes that blink,
That's right.
This, and that goes back to, for every one person out there who is honestly researching these animals, there's 10 more who are trying to put as much disinformation out there as possible. There's something about these creatures that the general public cannot come to terms with. I don't know if it goes back to the liability issue, if it goes back to economics or what, but for some reason the powers that be have just gone out of their way to bury their existence.
Right. People laugh at magic, sorcery, witchcraft, and they think it's just a joke. And they've done a great job to making people think it's just a joke.
Right.
But if I'm getting the impression with all my multiple avenues of research is that when it comes to that 1% of the 1% that kind of own everything in this world and kind of dictate what's going on, that just kind of they actually do. Let's be honest.
Well,
I think they do use sorcery, and I think
there may be people that disagree with this, but our government wants to dumb us down as much as possible. That makes us easier to control, easier to manipulate.
Right, and I think that the ruling elite have some kind of relationship with the spiritual realm. I really think that we're looking at this image and there's multiple entities. I mean, no one's getting. You can say, well, they're all Bigfoot. Well, I'm sorry, there's no way to prove they're all Bigfoot, but there's entities there.
Oh yeah, no doubt. There's and that goes back to pretty much how me and you connected. This goes so much further than the big Harry and Henderson's Bigfoot or the Patty type Bigfoot. The big solid. Here it is in our plane of existence. No doubt, big hairy, tall creature. And like I said, they're there. I don't get me wrong. I know they're there. I've interacted with them. I can find them if I need to. But those guys are only the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
And if you'll look at a lot of my pictures, just about every one of the other subspecies, especially the type 3 baboon type, every picture that I have of them, they're facing the camera and are baring their teeth.
Right. And then you got all the other entities and everything looking from I got multiple images. Many researchers who, they'll admit, at least to me in private and to others in private, and they'll share the images of the many different entities that they capture that don't look anything like a Bigfoot.
No, No, absolutely not. And I really believe that's how the dog man phenomenon got started as well. I think it's, and I've got pictures of some of these type 3 of what I call a baboon type that, they, for all intents and purposes, they look canine. All the way down to the elongated snout, the ears, and I really believe that's what a lot of people are seeing and calling what people are saying a dog man.
Right, and they're always together in a big pack. It's never like you don't hardly ever get images or see them. When you capture images of them, and I have seen the one time I saw 2 together. They were popping out of the ground, and then one crawling up a ravine and freaking them.
Right.
But listen. When you take images, a lot of these times, if we're honest about it, and you get like a group of them, and so one will look like a dog man, one will look like a quote unquote traditional Bigfoot. Although all those drawings that are out there and all those carvings and all the things that people try to push what Bigfoot looks like, they don't. It's like
no.
It's so dishonest. It's so pathetic. It's so childish. It has to be, and it's so uniformed that it has to be some form of directing the narrative and getting people focusing on the wrong thing.
It's monopolizing on it. That's how people are making money off of this.
That's part of it too, but I think there's part of it is their social engineering of this whole thing, the weaponization of anthropology, in which they're trying to get people to think that this Bigfoot or Sasquatch just looks like this one entity. When you'll get multiple entities. They get multiple entities, and one looks like an alien, one looks like a Bigfoot, one looks like Dogman, one has, 4 eyes, another one, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. A good friend of mine named Jimmy Boots and Farrah. He's an extremely knowledgeable researcher in this area. And, when I first met him, I showed him a picture of one of these creatures where I actually got a clear shot of half his face. And I made a mirror copy and put it together. And I think I showed you this picture. There's some of these things out there that have 2 sets of eyes. There is no doubt I have crystal clear, defined, detailed picture of these things' faces where they have one set of eyes up high on the head and then another set below that a little tighter in on the face. And after I said something about it, guess what? He has them up there too. He showed me pictures.
Right.
So
tell us about this image right here, man, because I see something. I see several images. I see, if you're looking or not, but I see a small head right there, and I see a large head right here. Some people would mistake it as a dog man, but it looks more like a cross between a dog and a cat.
That's one of the type 3s, and I think these things may be interbreeding across the subspecies. I really do. There and again, I can only tell people what I've learned in our physical world. I'm still trying to learn their, I guess you could say, their movements. I've learned a lot about them. I've learned, that the females seem to be the ones who call the shots. The males are hunter-gatherers. The young stay with the mother till they're about 8, 9 months old. But from the time they're old enough to be put on the ground, the adults have the babies on the ground and like around deer feeders and stuff, showing them, you can find food here. I've got pictures of this. That they're being taught just about out of the womb how to survive out there.
Now, do you think the females are bigger than the males, or vice versa?
In some species, yeah, absolutely.
So
I've got one big female in the place where a lot of these pictures were taken. She's probably pushing 1,000 pounds and has bands, white bands on each of her forearms. It's a black stripe, a very wide white stripe, and then another black stripe. She has those markings on both arms. And a couple of her offspring have the same markings on their arms. But she is huge. She almost looks like a mutated silverback gorilla. I mean, she's enormous.
Right. So, So, I mean, you're very strong. You know, you're like, well, you're like anyone who does this length of time. You're like, okay, there's the physical, biological aspect, and then there's supernatural. And I know, so you're kind of, you're explaining how you see it as far as them having children and babies and all that kind of stuff. You know anyone who's ever seen them have a baby?
I don't think anybody's ever actually witnessed the, the actual birthing, but I have, I've got pictures of infants that you could hold in two hands like a human child.
Yeah.
I've got pictures of adolescents. I got pictures of what I call teenagers. And in a lot of ways, they're a lot like us. As they grow, they go through this mischievous, playful period. They'll steal tools out of people's yards, throw rocks at their house. There's a lot of weird aspects of these creatures, and no two species act the same. It's a real confusing field of study to get into.
Yeah, I mean, because it doesn't, nothing adds up. I mean, okay,
no,
my experience with
animals to start a study off of.
Tell us about nests and what's this all about, really? Because to me,
there's a species of these guys that are anywhere from 2.5 to about 4 feet tall, and they basically look like they kind of look like the normal patty type, but they have a broader, flatter nose, kind of like a gorilla, and their nostrils are really far apart, and they have a really wide septum on their nose, and they have extremely large eyes. But these guys will build nests when it's time to birth. I put a picture of a tree nest up on my Facebook page, and if you'll look, and I haven't shown anybody the image yet, but you can actually see a nursing mother in the bottom half of that nest. You can see her breast, and you see the little newborn infant right next to it. And I was going to wait to see if anybody else saw it, which so far they haven't. So I guess I'm going to circle it and blow it up so everybody can see it. But those guys are very shy. And once they know they've been made, they'll lay up in the nest and they'll bare their teeth. They'll scowl, but they'll never make a sound. They'll freeze. They can be rock still. But that's how they have stayed hidden and have survived for so long as well.
Right. Well, tell us some. Okay, as far as filming and all that goes, we say, look for the eyes. You need to start seeing things that's sticking out. Like I got an image right here right now, sharing. It's just one of my many. This is like you see that, and there's a guy's right there, and it's there, and it's like kind of like doing the TV thing, right?
Right.
And so, but you train your eye to find these things. But okay. Someone's going to go out in the field. What are the things? And they're going to go out and do research, whether it's a grove, whether it's a forest, and everything in between.
Right.
It could be just a few trees in your own yard, believe it or not.
Exactly.
Folks.
Well, I mean, first thing I've done is I went out and started looking for your stereotypical sign, the tree breaks, the bends, and when I found those. But then once you start researching where you think they're at, you really need to pay attention to the details. Okay, that certain size rock is laying there and it's turned this way, or that limb is laying this way. And I know this may sound, a little far-fetched, but I promise you, if you pay attention to the woods, because they do, trust me, they know where every blade of grass is out there where they're at. That's their living room out there. But if you will pay attention, you will start noticing things that get moved, turned, stood up, trees, limbs laid up against trees, stuff that either somebody had to do or something. The wind just didn't do it. But once you find an area where they're at, just tune in. Just pay attention to your surroundings. Just don't go bumbling through there. So many people that go in the woods have walked past so many times these creatures and the things they leave behind, they never know it because they're oblivious. They haven't opened up their mind's eye, I guess, so to speak, to the surroundings out there.
Right.
But
I don't know how good that is to open up your mind's eye, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, you got to tune yourself to their environment. But like I said, it's that's their house. That you're in their living room when you go out there, and they know where everything is in their house, whether you do or don't. They know when you're there before you know you're there.
Right. So okay, what are some of the more of the signs that did you tell people to look for as far as activity besides tree breaks, tree leans, X structure? X structures is like a really good one. Teepees.
Right.
If you see a teepee and it's big or a big X structure, I can guarantee you that's a big. That's these.
Absolutely.
But I don't know if it's necessarily always a Bigfoot. But these I consider they're okay. I think most of these are like forest spirits and forest creatures.
You can't make any solid decision off one piece of evidence. You have to take all the evidence in as a whole before you even start to, base a decision on whether they're there or not. When I go in an area, I look for, like I said, the X's, the TPs, the asterisks, whatever you want to call them, tree breaks, tree leans. I look for sticks just stuck straight up the ground and put it so deep in the ground, there's no explanation why they're stuck there. I see that a lot. Any one of those things by itself is not indicative of, primate or hominid activity in that area, but when you have multiple, examples of those things in one area, then start paying attention because something is going on.
Right. Well, I want you to take a look at this image of mine, okay? You looking at it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now you just focus on here, folks. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but it's got like this crazy part in its head, hair. Look at that eyes there, and a freaking weird nose, and it got this.
Right.
And by the way, he's not alone. He's just got a couple of his buddies as usual. But what is that?
Well, if you'll look, one of the images of mine you just had up, there was one of the creatures that was semi-transparent that had like a mask, and he had a bulbous nose a lot like that. If you'll go back and look at that image and look at yours, I think that those two are the same species.
Let's go back here now. You're talking about the floating head one?
No, it's he's looking right at the camera. You pretty much see through it, but you can see him clearly. He's there.
Well, I'm flicking through your images, so tell me when they come to.
Yeah, you just had it up there. Let it been either the picture before this one or maybe one or two prior to this. It was just up there a second ago.
This one?
Hold on, it's still loading on my tablet here.
This one?
It hadn't pulled up yet. There's a lag.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid to go back into.
Okay, not the one where you see him. No, not that one. Not the Boba Fett looking face one. No.
That basis, brother. I talk about that eye too.
Oh yeah, no problem.
That sucker.
I looked up a minute ago and I saw it up there, and then I looked back. You done moved on.
Is it a night shot?
Yeah, it's a night shot.
Sorry, folks, I'm flicking through this stuff. Probably driving you crazy. It's kind of hard to do this. To do it, you could talk nonsense and entertain people.
Hang on a second. That may be it. Let me see. Yeah, that's it right there. You just passed it.
That one?
No.
Dang. You must have a serious delay on yours.
Yeah, I'm sure I do. I'm sure there is.
Is this one?
No, the one I'm looking at now, there's actually a gallon of water sitting in the foreground. That's not it. Nope, daytime shot. No. Nope.
Son of a gun.
You just had it up there. Oh, God. Keep going. Keep going. Nope. Nope.
I'm sorry, man. Anyways,
It's all right. It's, I mean, this
is it this guy right here?
That's one of the, let's see.
Because that one's got that freaking hook nose thing going on.
I'm trying to see. Is that the one that's behind the tree looking out at nighttime shot?
It's a daytime shot. And it's
okay, no. But yeah, the one we're looking for is a nighttime shot.
Okay. Do you see the image now what I'm looking at?
No, right now, we're looking at stick structure now, the Boba Fett one.
I'm sorry, folks. We're trying to make this work, but unfortunately, you have a huge delay on your end.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I kind of figured that's what was happening.
So, but when you get it's finally I'm going to stay stable at this one image. We'll worry about that later. I know, as well.
Yeah, I mean this.
Let's talk about
that
this
image. It's almost spot on of the image that you have. It's just the one I've got is a little more defined because he's right there at the camera.
Right. Well, this one's very interesting because he's got the hook nose, he's got the white face, and you can see the black, the head kind of leading toward the cone. But I mean, he's right there. I mean, he's got two dark eyes.
You got one where he's peeking out around the tree there. You got the orange circle around him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, tell a story about this one, then. And then
that's
what's this TP
actually a
stuff
zoomed in image. There's a wider view of that same picture. There's about 9 right there together in that same image. I have another right copy of that. It's a little wider image. I kind of cropped in on that part of it, but there's about 9 of them at that particular time.
And that's just the ones you circled. I mean, you got one forming. You got one forming right here in this tree right here, and you got one on top of it. You see this thing starting to do the TP thing. I mean, you can see the blatant eyes. There's no way that's just 2 knots in a tree. That's 2 dark eyes right there.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
you see this one. This one's starting to materialize right here. You got the eyes, the nose, mouth, and then you go and you got something going on here. What the heck's that thing?
Yeah, give you some idea of how brazen these creatures got. And a lot of those pictures right there are less than 100 yards from a person's backyard.
Oh, I believe that. I mean, I just talked to a gal, and she gave me permission too. She's got 2 pictures, and I showed you one of the images, right? It's this lady in her backyard with tree line, and then there's her backyard, and then the tree line, and in the tree line, she took 2 shots of a camera of her dog, and in the tree line you see nothing, and then the next one, and seconds later there's a freaking head forming, and it's huge. Right. And that's not just one. It's not one head. Once again, it's multiple entities.
They're never by themselves. Never. You'll never see one.
So that makes me wonder sometimes about some of these films now, some of these where you just see a Bigfoot, say, running across. There's a couple ones that are they're out there, and you're like, is that a guy? Maybe that really is a guy in a suit. But then when you break the video down, you start seeing multiple entities.
Right.
And they never tell you about the multiple entities. Now, either people are just too damn lazy to break down the videos and just accept anything that's thrown at them.
Or too scared to come forward.
Oh, yeah, because you know as well as I do what you're going to get. You're going to get everyone.
Well, I mean, up until I put my page up, and I broached this subject, this is the first time that I've heard anything on any type of podcast or anything for the mass to even be aware that these other things are out there. So I know that what I'm doing is starting to pay off, and I know it's not just me, seeing these things. I mean, these things are there, they exist.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a completely different part of the country. I've been doing this all on my own. I mean, I started out doing this stuff, doing shows with MK Davis, and then I started, we're going down the wrong direction here, MK. Come on, man. I mean, there's multiple entities, but he didn't want to deal with the supernatural side of things, and so the problem is, you're not going to understand this unless you got a balance between the biological side and the spiritual supernatural side. And if you're not willing to accept that that's what's going on, you're never going to figure this.
Well,
you're not even going to go down the right path.
One piece of advice I can give to everybody: if you get into this, you better do it with an open mind. Because if you go in it with a preconceived notion or idea of what these things are, or if you go into it with a closed mind, you might as well stay home and be a couch researcher, because you're not going to accomplish anything. All you're doing is fooling yourself.
So you go out there and I'm going to go find this ape dude. And then what happens when ape dude doesn't look anything like an ape?
Well, most people either go home and can think they're losing their mind, they never do it again, or they go out again just to make sure that they saw what they thought they saw. And if they see it again, then that's it. They're done. They don't go back to the woods anymore.
Right. Tell us about this image right here again, because this is like a rabbit-looking thing, and then you got they got the bulbous nose and big eyes, and the forehead and the mouth, monkey mouth, and then this guy, instead of having a cone head, he's got more of like somebody chopped off his cone head.
Is that a daytime shot?
This is a night shot. So if you're
okay,
I'll wait. Tell me when you see solely a night shot, and you'll know because there's like a rabbit-looking thing right in the front.
Right.
Now that's what I see at first glance.
That may be the image that. Hold on a second now. What else? What else is in the image? You see a 1 gallon water jug in the image?
No.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'll put water out for them too. That's what that's about.
You can see some kind of stick form X structure to the left and center. You got this big sucker with small ones in front of it. Behind a log that's kind of going horizontal. It's little going from middle left to heading towards.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It had that image hadn't come up yet.
How many hours, minutes delay do you got? I mean,
I don't, man. I tell you, I don't know. I've been sitting here trying to figure it out. I know the image I've got right now. There's a vine, a huge vine that comes down the middle of the screen and cuts it off to the left.
Yeah, is it a night shot?
Yeah. Then right in front of the vine, there's a jug sitting right there on the ground.
This thing right here, this thing where I'm circling.
In the middle of the screen toward the bottom is the water jug.
You should see my.
And then right above the log that's running horizontal, that creature there. It looks like his head's propped up on the log.
Right here, it looks kind of like a reptile-ish thing.
Yeah, let's see.
Because you got like there's an X structure here, and then there's like a one of those snake reptile one things. I don't know if you realize, but
I think there's like 4 together right there. I think.
And there's a lot more than 4, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just from what I'm seeing right here, I think there's I see the 4 right there in the front. There's also one in the creek bed to the left right there where the small tree is to the left. He's down real low.
In the left corner?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. Well, I know definitely here, folks, if you focus right here, maybe he can't see it, maybe you can, I don't know, Donovan. But right, almost dead center, just behind the log that's almost lying vertical. You can see like a big one in the background, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's like Bigfoot. It's like Bigfoot and then a whole bunch of dwarves.
They travel in like families, troops, or groups, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they're a lot of them are real. They seem to be real family oriented.
Or just like people say, you live in pods, clans, groups.
Right.
Chad Carter says they stay in a small group and spread out and regroup. By the way,
absolutely. I mean, that's how they forage. I mean, that's they'll send watchers out. You've got males who their sole job is to spread out, lay low, and watch for any danger that comes within a certain self proximity of where the rest of the group is. That's their sole job.
So if somebody wants to start putting trail cams out there, limited budget, that kind of thing, what is the minimum that you would recommend? And what kind of brand, too?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a real good look. The Tasco 14 megapixel or higher. And there, and again, it depends on how you utilize it. We like to take a dummy camera and put it on a tree somewhere, and let them, and we make sure we make a lot of noise. We want them to see us do that,
Man,
So in their head, they're thinking, okay, we see them putting that camera up there. What we try not to let them see is while one of us is refilling the feeding station, the other one's acting like, tying our shoe or something the whole time we're hiding another camera under a rock or something. I mean, you have to do these things. Yeah, I mean, it is the only way you're going to catch them. Because when you're out there, they're watching your every movement.
How much is it going to cost to have a decent trail cam that takes good night photos and that kind of thing?
I mean, you can sink a couple $100 into one easily. I mean, you can get something that should do the job for you for right around $70 to $90.
So it's not going to be cheap to get these trail cams. So how many you got set up?
You are not going to do anything but spend money if you get into this. There's no money to be made in this unless you got your own TV show or something. I mean,
right.
It's a
like,
money pit.
It's like a hobby, but the problem with this thing, it's as we do research, it's like confronting with something bizarre, supernatural. A lot of ugly, wicked-looking things. A lot of things look demonic.
Oh yeah.
At least, how we've been.
I'm not one to say. I don't know. They could be straight out of the pits of hell for all I know.
Well,
they exist. They're out there, and that's what we're trying to find out. Where do they come from? Why are they here? Why are there so many different types?
What you brought up earlier about like the mainstream media and how they've really twisted the message.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, so here's another thing too. When you think about all these horror movies and all these things, and everyone decked up and everything's real ugly, how do we know at the end of the day, just because they're ugly and nasty looking and look demonic, that all of them are actually evil? You know what I mean? To me, I've been able to kind of distinguish from pictures based on their contents.
Right.
Basically. When they're like at peace or peaceful looking, and then those that look like they're about ready to tear your head off type of thing.
Right.
But, what is that? Is it simply, are we dealing with something that's supernatural? As far as intelligence goes, it might be intelligent, but are they capable of doing anything besides building tree structures and making babies?
Well,
that doesn't make that. I wouldn't call that intelligent. I would just call that more animalistic in nature.
Well, they're problem solvers. Trust me, I know this. I've done things to test them. But I will say this. In a lot of people's defense, they say they have had nothing but warm, fuzzy interaction with some of these guys. I hope you have, and I wish you all the luck in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
And I will say this. I have been out there in those woods many times at night, all night long. And at any time, if they had wanted me, I'd be gone because there'd been nothing I could do. That being said, I would never put one in a corner, okay? And me and Tim both had been out there, and we would step in an area, and they would let us know immediately, you need to go. And we learned real quick, when you are notified to get the hell out of there, you do it. Because we've been charged. I took a group out about a year and a half ago with me and 3 or 4 other guys, and we had one come through the woods toward us, sounded like a train rolling through the woods coming toward us. And it shook up a couple of guys so bad, it took them a while before they ever go back out again.
Now, was this nighttime or day?
Oh, nighttime. Okay. Nighttime. It was right across the road from the cemetery in Lee County.
Imagine that.
Yeah, these
how come you see so many in a cemetery?
Vicious. Oh yeah.
How come we see so many of these things in or adjacent to cemeteries? Why is that?
Absolutely, I've got report after report of them in cemeteries that are around them.
Well, I'm asking you the question: why?
I don't know. I mean, that's one of those questions I've got on my to find out list. Unfortunately, my to find out list is way longer than what I have found out, because for every one thing I find out, it pops up 10 more questions about these things.
That's right. I mean, to me, based on the fact that I have a Christian and biblical perspective in life. I mean, that's my world point of view at this point. It wasn't that. In fact, actually, Bigfooting is actually what got me to believe in God. Really, honestly, because I had some strange spiritual warfare going on, and I really had to put. It made me believe in the name of Jesus, and that's why I share with people. Not because I'm a religious nut.
I've had people, including you, tell me that they have had encounters with these creatures and they've rebuked them in the name of Christ, and it works. You know,
it does.
Like I said, I'm not going to laugh at anybody or any theory because nobody knows what these things are for sure.
Yeah,
Nobody knows where they come from.
So the question is for me is if it works, which it did, and it does. It's almost like, you know, if you believe in God, you believe in Jesus, also you get this protective hedge, and they're like, okay. I mean, and what's the weirdest thing is too, once you know, I really started believing in God and Jesus, and I even started talking about, you know, Jesus, and even in the woods and on the edge of the woods and all that kind of stuff. You know, my ability to capture these things and interaction with them it just skyrocketed. So why is that?
You know, you're not the only one I've heard a statement like that from. You know, a lot of people, you know, claim a spiritual connection with them, you know, and like I said, that may be the case. You know, myself personally, I've never experienced that. You know, but there and again, I went in the woods with these things purely from a research standpoint from the get-go. You know, I looked at it from the physical, the physical interaction with our world and the evidence they leave behind. That's where I started.
So you were starting a biological, ecological approach.
That's where I started.
Based on what you've learned in life. But that, just remember something, what you said there is, you know, research then when it comes to this, which you know, it's multifaceted.
Oh yeah.
And if you stay stuck at what you're saying, what you're talking about, you're gonna hit a serious dead end.
Exactly. You know, looking at stuff from a purely scientific point, these creatures, that I learned this pretty quick, it will take you only so far. Because, you know, it's just like perfect examples are cloaking ability. You know, that's almost, in a lot of people's mind, that's pure crap. That's science fiction, okay? I'm here to tell you it's not. Now, whether it's magic, whether it's alien technology, whether it's just some kind of natural step in the evolutionary process for these guys, I don't know. But I do know they have the capability to do this.
Well, what about the simple fact that these things are manifesting? The word has been used for hundreds of years, manifesting through the veil, from one realm, spiritual realm that's adjacent to us, to, you know. And I'm not talking about quantum mechanics and quantum physics, because that's rubbish. And if you spend any time, you realize it's all rubbish. But what I'm saying is that we're dealing with something supernaturally and spiritual. And there are examples not only in the Bible but in other ancient texts about, you know, whether they call them angels or these spiritual beings that can somehow, either through different rituals and rites, whatever, can be, you know, using the 5 elements of witchcraft and all that kind of stuff, or using shamanism or witchcraft, you know, sorcery, as we call it today, can help these things manifest. Now,
well, the Native Americans treat them like a supernatural entity in the woods.
Yeah, but saying that, I'm saying, why is it then I'm not doing that? Sounds like you're not doing that. Why are we experiencing them if we're not if we're not practicing these things like shamanism, witchcraft, sorcery? Why is it that why can we see it?
Well, maybe they're trying to teach us something. I don't know. That's just like, you know, it seems like I'm starting to see more and more evidence of their existence and more people coming forward. So either A, they're leaving enough evidence behind now for other people to begin to see, i.e. stick structures, rock stacks, glyphs, whatever you want to call it, whatever evidence they leave behind. There seems to be more and more of that happening on a daily basis. So it's almost like they're wanting us to, you know, like they're saying, hey, you know, we're here. and we can do this. We want you to see this, or, and now, like I said, this is all theories. It's just, who
Well,
knows?
I wouldn't even call it theory. I call it at this point just conjecture and speculation.
Exactly.
Because we haven't
no
really
solid information or data on these things yet to say anything for sure.
Well, it comes back to this whole thing that it's right now. It's just like putting. It's almost. How do you apply the scientific method in this situation? I mean, okay, so you develop some kind of hypothesis, and it leads to a theory, but then it goes in 20 different directions. So
right. Well, I mean, one thing I have found that really ties them down to the physical world, as far as I'm concerned, is they have to breathe, eat, sleep, and reproduce. Okay, and out of all those things they do, I went and I looked at what part of that equation I could adversely contribute or take away from them to get a reaction or interact with them. And the first thing I came upon was, of course, the food. All right, they have to have food. They expend energy.
What food do you feed them in particular?
Oh God, they like apples, of course, peanut butter, honeydew melon. I've talked to people who feed them cabbage. I've seen them eat small fish, crayfish. They like the occasional turkey, or of course deer and hog. They're omnivores, but they really they seem to have a really partial liking to peanut butter and apples. They really like that.
Now,
And,
have you ever seen them actually eat that?
Out, they'll eat 50 pounds in a night.
Have you actually seen them eat?
Oh, absolutely. There's pictures in there. If you look, there's some of the nighttime pictures of the feeding station, you'll see an apple just hanging in midair with one's taking one out and got it in his hand. The one clear one of the little one that's kind of down in the ditch. If you zoom in, you'll see his top teeth. If you look really close, he's got an apple in his mouth.
Right in this picture?
Yeah, the one where he's on the left-hand side, he's like kind of down in the ditch.
Okay.
You can see him plain as day. If you zoom in, you can actually see his top teeth, and if you look close, he's got his mouth open and he's got an apple in his mouth.
Well, the thing is, so like we talked about last night, Ryan Reading, he did a great job of capturing sticks vertically flying through the air in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
So, what I'm saying is...
They do that to trigger cameras.
Right, well, it definitely did that. And by the way, there was entities in the distance as well, so it wasn't... But you didn't see anything actually carrying are moving the sticks, and it was perfectly going horizontally through the... I said it vertically, I meant to say horizontally.
And the reason I was able to get those other entities because the flash on the camera I had relocated, to a different area. So it was actually... The actual infrared flash was not attached to the camera. It was sitting off to the side of the camera in a different area. So they thought that was a camera. And they thought, well, if we stand over here, then that camera over there is not going to see us. But what they didn't know was they was actually standing dead in line of the camera.
Cool. Chad Carter says, I've seen them eat cattails and apples.
Absolutely.
Once again, Ryan, because I'm talking to him a while. I haven't talked to him in a while. I don't know if he's still doing it or not. But he took a picture of, and we talked about that in an apple orchard where the tree was full of these ape-looking things.
Oh, yeah, they'll wipe out an apple orchard.
But the thing is that they are transparent.
Yep.
And when he took the picture, he didn't see these things. Yet this orchard, the reason the guy asked him to come up because his apples were disappearing. Chad Carter also says, he puts Nephilim in question mark. What do you think about the Nephilim theory? Possibility?
There again.
I think
he may be dead on. I mean, I'm not going to discredit any theory. I'm open to any and all.
Well, the problem is with this is just like that. So you say, and somebody studies the Bible really heavily, and I just like the Nephilim possibility. But at the same token, there's not enough evidence. You can't really base it on 2 verses or a couple
No,
verses.
because there's just too many different types of these things out there to nail it down to the Nephilim. You know,
And
the Nephilim were
if
always
you really do
huge.
believe in Heavenly Father and believe in God, a creator, then in a God of life, then why couldn't there in the spirit realm have him created a gazillion types of entities?
And that may be the case. You know, there may be a whole other world that lives while we're resting out there that runs the show while we're asleep. You know, I mean, who knows?
I think I strongly believe that is the case. I think that the more and more of these images that I'm capturing, it's like, okay, and we talk about ecology, biology, etc. We talk about the different types of animals and species and all that, and the just exaggerating gazillion, but you know what I mean. There's millions of different types of species of animals, where it's fish,
Absolutely,
birds, mammals, whatever. And I'm like, well, why can't that be in this realm that's around us in the woods? And I'm starting to think that that's exactly what it is, and it's going to be really weird. Because what would happen? This is a strange thing to bring up to you, but maybe not. Are we the pioneers of starting a whole new science that's not about chasing demons and ghosts and all that, and spirits, but it's actually documenting all these different types of multi-dimensional species? And I know this sounds like new age nonsense, but hear me out, because I'm not into the new age nonsense. I'm not into none of this stuff. But there's something going on here, and if one just takes a little bit of that biological approach and says, okay, maybe what we're looking at is multiple species of something that's able to come in and out.
Okay. Now the only problem I have with a theory like that is, if they're able to do that, why would they even bother coming here?
I don't. Excuse me. The mistake. Well, this is how I see it. A possible mistake is pointing out. You said, why are they coming here? Why not? Right. That they've always been here. They're not coming here. They've always been here. It's just now that we're waking up to the technology that we have, and more experiences, that people are like, oh my gosh, these forest entities, these whatever they're. Some people want to call them elemental spirits. Some people want to call them, forest spirits. So whatever it is. Why is it now that we're capturing all these images and reasons? Because we have the technology, and so we're in the verge of a whole new branch of study and science in its own right.
If they're, every color that we know of has a name, and we know when we hear the name of that color, we know what that color looks like.
Right.
Okay, now let's just say all of a sudden there's a new color created that we don't have a name for. Would we be able to see that color?
Or even how would you describe it? Someone had to describe it for it.
Exactly. And these things are just like that.
Right. And it's interesting how they interact. Man, that's a freaking amazing photo I'm looking at right now.
I've worked really hard to get those images.
I'm sure. You got to pop them out too.
Well, I had a lot to prove to a lot of people, because I'm going to tell you, when I first started this, like everybody else, I was ridiculed. I was called this, I was called that. And, basically all that done was lit a fire under me to go out there and bring back better and better pictures and harder and more concrete evidence.
Cool. Would you be willing to, everybody likes to hear the stories, and stories is one of the big things. And so if you got a couple stories to share with us, that some gems that you'd be willing to share with people about your encounters.
There's a couple of them. There's, they'd be kind of neat. Maybe we could, schedule another time to do it. But,
just do one at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess probably the most interesting one would be the one where the proverbial man in black was falling in the woods
Yeah,
And
tell us
one of my-
about this. Give us some detailed description of this man in black in the woods. This is
Well, I actually
fascinating.
posted a picture of it, and I got a lot of comments on it. And you know, it's not one of those pictures where the guy's, you know, a mile out, looks like a blurry blob. I mean, this guy was close enough, and he saw me take his picture because I had it made up.
Do you want to
pretty
share
quick.
that with me, and then I can post it right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But the day that encounter happened, it was not a planned trip. I'd actually picked up the phone and called one of my teammates. Said, "Hey, you want to, you know, run out to this site and let's, you know, look around, see what's going on." And it was a spur of the moment trip. You know, wasn't something that was planned. So, you know, either A, they were listening on my phone calls, or B, they just, you know, were watching and following me after I posted some ideas on, you know, on Facebook about what I thought these things were. But we get out there, and I'm walking through the woods, and I keep noticing that I'm hearing another set of footsteps, you know, a little further off. And my first thought was, you know, one of these creatures was paralleling me, because a lot of them do that. You know, they'll parallel you. When you stop walking, they'll stop. You know, that's how they match their footsteps. But then I caught a glimpse of what I thought was a red flag or something. I was like, what the crap? So I stopped, and I got to looking, and probably 60 or 70 yards out, there's this man standing there with a fedora on, a red tie, a sport jacket, a white shirt. I mean, you didn't see his beard gut in the picture. And he's standing there looking dead at me, you know, and I'm in the middle of the woods, you know, probably eighth of a mile, maybe a quarter of a mile out. And here's this guy in a three-piece suit out there following me in the woods. And then the picture, at the time, I didn't see it, but I went back and looked at the picture when I took it. Standing behind this individual is an entity. It's massive, probably, and he's probably standing 30 feet behind him, and you can see him in the picture. And, you know, I really believe that that guy knew that that creature was standing back there. I don't know if they were out there together or what, but that picture is not questionable. You can see his tie, you can about make out his face, the hat, everything. You know, and I told him, I said, I want you to know that I see you just about, you know, as good as you can see me, and I got your picture too. And, you know, he just vanished. He just turned around and disappeared. But I was able to get a picture of it.
Now, do you think it was a real guy? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a flesh and blood individual.
So, but did he just appear, or I mean, what do you mean?
I mean, no, he had been following me, because, like I said, I'd heard the footsteps probably 5 or 10 minutes after I actually got into the woods good. And, you know, I thought maybe it was just one of the creatures, you know, paralleling and watching me to see what I was doing, but it turns out it was this guy.
So, are you talking like some kind of like a stalker, gang stalker type thing? You know?
I mean, he looked just like what everybody describes as a man in black. I swear to Christ in heaven, and I have a.
What did his face look like again?
A man in black.
Well, what does that mean? Is he like?
They supposedly work for the government. They always wear black three-piece suits.
I'm talking about his face. What did his face look like?
Oh, I mean, you really can't make out a lot. I mean, it was just, you know, just a white guy standing there. You can make out that.
Was he bald? You know? Did he have hair?
Oh, no, he had on a hat. He had on the fedora.
Okay, but you couldn't tell if he had hair or not.
No.
Fedora says very fascinating. But I'm not surprised. I mean, I had my own weird experience with.
I mean, that happened, and I have photographic proof of it happening.
So which, you know, sometimes, man, look at that. I mean, you know what, dude? Looking at this image right here, you got this circled here, but right next to it, to the right, is a perfect head.
Oh yeah, there's another circled image of that particular guy next to him. Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, we've got one male out there. It's probably 18, maybe 20 feet tall.
Oh yeah, I think some of these things get huge.
Oh yeah.
I wonder the huge ones are what, you know, going back to what Chad had to say. Maybe they have some connection with it, not one. But once again, it's just speculation and conjecture. It's like, it's no way, unless they, you know, we learn how to communicate with these things. We're never gonna, and then we can prove what they're saying. They're not just BSing us, you know. Because how many of these things are what people call familiar spirits or something or another, that been following you around and me around our whole lives and didn't
Oh
know.
yeah, I mean, I've got people that have called me with reports from following them home, leaving gifts and stuff like that. But then, and then, like I said, on the flip side of the same token, I've got reports of people building houses in the woods, leave, go to town, come back to the house, be totally demolished and wiped out by one of these things.
Good gosh, there's another head. Perfect head. There's the mouth,
Oh,
nose, and two eyes. You even got the brows right there.
Well, I
and
mean,
that.
the pictures that I bring forth, I've tried to bring pictures to the public that you can't just look at and go, oh, that's a so-and-so, that's a raccoon, that's a squirrel, that's a flying beaver monster. When you look at these pictures that I have posted, if you know what to look for, it will leave no doubt in your mind that these creatures are in the woods of North America.
Yeah, and here's one right here in front of this tree. I don't know if you see me pointing at it right now. If there's a delay, how bad the delay is, but maybe you people can see. There's an eye right here. There's an eye right here. There's a nose. Look at this teeth and mouth wide open.
Always showing their teeth.
And it looks to me almost. It doesn't. It looks more what people might call reptilian, and then more than. It looks like a big old, like a snake head almost. But.
Yeah, some of them do kind of have a odd looking head, like almost like a pit viper.
Wow, serious heavy spiritual activity in this one location.
Oh
and
yeah. I mean,
this location,
every time I go out, I mean, I go out there right now, and those things would be out there.
What is hanging from the tree right here?
That's a bag of apples. Yeah, we've actually built a feeding station out there now. We've gotten a little more professional about it.
So I mean, here's another question: have you ever thought about, man, there's another one right freaking here, right in front of the tree too, man. There's an eye there, there's an eye there.
They're all in there. I mean, we've counted 30 of them. I think 33 or 34 at one time. One night out there.
Well, I wonder if we're crossing a line here too with the baiting them and the feeding things. It's almost like I don't know if idolatry is the word, but this whole thing about this thing about basically giving them these gifts. That's almost like
that group that you see that all these pictures of. They wouldn't like that at the start. I mean, you would occasionally catch them, but it took almost a year of me going in and out of there the same path day in and day out, and me feeding them to get them where they're coming in thick numbers like that. And what I've done is, I mean, everything I've done for a reason. I've gotten them complacent, and like they're not infallible creatures. Don't think for 1 minute that they never screw up, that they're above screwing up, that they're superhuman. They do make mistakes, and right now I've got several of them making a very big mistake, and I'm using their stomach to do it.
Well, it's interesting going back to stomach and food, and I'm getting like tons of images next to a grocery store. What's up with that?
Well, there again, some are scavengers. I've got picture after picture of these things working with raccoons.
I mean, are we talking these things are dumpster divers too? You know what I mean?
I've got many reports of them doing that. I've got reports of them stealing whole trash cans. I've got reports of them taking trash bags out of cans, going to the edge of the woods, digging through the bag, getting what they want, and leaving the trash for the homeowner to have to pick up. They're opportunistic feeders. I mean, they're predators, but they scavenge as well. I mean, they do what they have to do to survive. And that's another reason they're starting to be seen more and more closer to humans. They figured out, these guys leave a mess and we can eat this. They're not dumb by no means.
Here's an image that I'm sharing with folks. And I don't know if you got to it yet. There's a delay and all, but when you get to it, you can see this one. This is quite clear. And here's an example of one that's got the cone head, the big eyes, the nose. There's the chin. But next to it, it's right in front of it. It's got like its pet dogs. Some of the like all these dog-looking entities that go along with them. I mean, there's like Is the thing holding a dog?
Well, I can't speak for other researchers in their areas, but in our areas when we research, these things cannot stand a coyote. They will kill one. If they get within grabbing distance of a coyote, they will kill the crap out of it. The only animals I've seen them interact with on a friendly basis are raccoons. Now, that being said, I've got trail cam pics of squirrels around them, birds, rabbits, and the other animals don't seem to mind them being that close to them. It's really odd. But I do know that they will eat the occasional squirrel. I'm sure they'll eat the rabbit, but the animals that are out there either A, don't realize they're that close to them, or B, they know they're not on the menu for that day. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's another one of those questions that I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, there's so many questions. And here's like, if you look at here, folks, you got one right here. You guys got another buddy right there. But I want you to pay real good attention to the fact of how small these things are, because the ones that I captured here, got two of them together don't even equal the size of that leaf. So.
No, some of them are tiny. And when I first started seeing those, I was like, is it my eyes, or am I really seeing what I think I'm seeing? But then I started getting more and more pictures of them. I've got pictures of them on the side of trees, on limbs, sitting on rocks. And it's just another subspecies of these things.
Right. Then you got one. So if I want to get a picture here, one of mine. It's looks doggish. Got like a doggish head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and if anything, to anybody that's listening out there, if you have seen anything like what we're talking about, I mean, go to the web page and post it. Don't never fear being ridiculed. I mean, I welcome any and all input, because I promise you have not seen anything out there that I haven't seen at least twice.
Yeah, you witnessed the freak show, man. Here's another example of something really small. You can see this guy. He's got the frowny face, the nose, the two eyes. Once again, extremely small.
Yep.
I mean, it's smaller than a frickin' leaves, and these leaves happen to be grape leaves, just so you know. And there it is, and it's got, some kind of hairdo on top. I mean, do these things comb their hair? Do they, do they hijack their combs?
They do groom each other just like you see primates do on TV.
So I don't want to, there's so much more. But anyways, we've talked a good time here. We could probably talk, like I said last night, just chatting, which turns out to be, this is more of a conversation than anything, because honestly, that's basically, folks, is what it has come down to. It's, everyone says, don't take my word, and it, absolutely don't take our word on anything. If you want to know the truth about this, you're going to have to do a little bit of work yourself.
I mean, I would be more than happy to take anybody out, but that being said, the best time to go is a couple hours before dark, get the feeding station loaded up, get your camp set up, get settled in, and it's a waiting game. But I promise you, you will experience something. You'll come out of those woods with a whole different outlook.
And I will tell you as well that in the end of the day, once you know what you're doing, you don't even have to go out in the dark to get these images, because all the images that I've been sharing with you folks are daytime images, most of them in the evening, a couple hours before dark. This one's a very interesting one. This thing is his head hovering over this pickup truck, or I believe it is. And I mean, it looks like a cross between Batman and Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of those things, man, there's just no describing them,
And people want to say it's pareidolia, but after a while, you're like, come on, man.
No, pareidolia, like I said, I really hate that term. I had a very close relative of mine sum it all up in pretty much one statement to me not long ago. And I had a picture that I've taken in some woods that's close to their house, and I kept saying, look, it's right here, it's right here, it's right here. Yeah, how can you not see that? And they finally got mad to the point where all of a sudden they busted out and said, you know what? I don't see it, and if I did see it, I don't want to see it. And that's all I needed to know right there.
I think what it comes down to, because the implications of this here, especially of the spiritual side of things, is for a lot of guys, it's like, oh my gosh, because a lot of these, especially those who claim to be, those are, sort of trying to do the biological approach, right? The total quote unquote scientific approach, which never is the case. It's just a defense mechanism for most people.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you got the guys that have hunted all their life, and I've never seen one. Well, yeah, you probably have. You just didn't realize it, but then if they finally admit that there's something out there that like this that is even a remote chance of existing, well, I'm not going to go back to woods hunting. They're not going to do that. It's just so much easier to shut down the part of the brain that can accept the fact that there's these things out there. It's easier to shut down that part of the brain and ignore it than it is to come to terms with it.
Right. Well, right now I'm because one of the things I also approach is this when we're filming these things, especially at night. Orbs show up too usually, and you can catch some pretty good orbs. I can't remember the gal's name. If you listen to this or if you see it or everybody else knows who this picture is, I forgot where I got it from. I apologize for not giving you credit for it, but it's not my picture. But it's a brilliant picture. Now, if people look at this closely, with these orbs, this is in the cemetery, as usual. But there's a big freaking head right there. Eyes popping out there. If you just look real closely, here's a nice head popping out. Things that look just like Bigfoot. There's another one. So why is it a lot of times too when you start seeing these heads flying around and looking just like what we would call Bigfoot? There's another good example of one. This page is good look. This one almost looks like back to this one, almost alien-like. A lot of times in the orbs, you'll see faces too. It looks just like Bigfoot or something that we would mistake as Bigfoot or something. So I guess my question to you is, man, here's that great one there, peeking out with this kind of a cone head. What's going on with the orbs and Bigfoot, man? Because
I've only witnessed a few orbs in my pictures, and I really haven't even, to be honest, even remotely started looking in that direction yet.
I would if I were you.
Well, eventually I'm going to have to because, I know they're there. What they are, how they're connected, I don't know yet. But right now I'm still trying to connect the dots on the mere existence of all these things out there. But, I really feel like, and, I hope people remember I made this statement, but when the lid finally comes off of this thing and what there is to be known about all this is known, it's going to be the furthest thing from what everybody thinks it is that it could possibly be. I promise you.
Right, except for those who are already in the know, because clearly,
exactly, and there are some people who are in seats of power within our government who know what these things are and what they're capable of.
Sometimes you wonder if they're making any kind of attempt to harness these things.
Well, that's a story for another time, but I've got some, I guess you could say, classified information on that too from the military.
Right. All right, man. Well, folks, thank you for. This is Amber's orb that she captured. This is one of those big suckers that I captured, and this one is like 30 feet tall. Anyways, we'll talk more about it. I need to do a video myself, but it's so many images, I don't know what to do. And then
anybody out there that wants to join our organization, you're more than welcome to. I've tried to make it more of a family type situation where people will feel comfortable coming in and discussing what they've seen, And some people are so traumatically affected by seeing these things that they have to have somebody to talk to, and we have people on our organization that can help with that. They've been there. They had to walk themselves through it, and it can be a traumatic experience for some people. It truly is.
Well, yeah, it should be. For me, it was so shocking that I don't know if it changes your life permanently, but for like like so
Oh,
many new
absolutely.
revelations.
Once you're open, your eyes are open to the existence of these things. Everything that you thought you knew about the world around you just gets flushed.
It's just now in my life that I'm starting to get comfortable enough to say, okay, they're around. Because when you first find out, you're like, these got to be demons. These got to be evil. This got to be awful. And I did have a terrible demonic attack for 3 days, and it wasn't based on drugs or me being this. I got image of the things too. They were attacking.
Oh yeah.
And so, it's like. But when I say these things, here's the problem: which are the good guys, which are the bad guys?
Exactly. There's no way to know until it's too late.
Yeah. So when you get involved with this, definitely put on.
Tread carefully. Constantly be aware of your surroundings. That's all I can say.
Well, before we hang up here, we'll go over recognizing the people that showed up. Burns, Pep showed up late, man. He has to listen to the whole thing. He listened. It's a pretty good thing. Justin, Donald, April Ann, Chad, Jeff. I'm not going to say his last names because I'll butcher half of them. So
I know most of them.
Yeah, it sounds like they're all from your group, right? Madison, Daniel, Pike, Jim Gregory. I recognize Jim Gregory. How you doing, Jim? Teresa, Shane. Kesha, Keisha, hey, how are you? There you are, Donovan. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Glad to do it anytime.
Philip, William, and there's other folks too. But anyways, yeah, bro, it's a lot of fun. I know, folks, this is not like just shut up and let the other guy talk. Well, listen, turns out to be it's a conversation.
Well,
generally speaking,
the
what
Miss
happens?
The Trisha lady, Walter, that was on there, Miss Trisha, I want to give a special thanks to her because a lot of what people are getting to see wouldn't be possible without her support.
Well, that's cool. Why is that?
She's been a real big contributor in a lot of ways, but she just say that, everybody out there owes her a debt of gratitude for the images and all that I've been able to bring to public light.
Right. And
she's a big supporter.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. And man, I wish I had some people support me. I got nobody supporting me. So.
It's a lonely crusade, brother.
I know. By the way, folks, there's that single eye. We'll have to talk about someday about the one eye.
Yeah, he's an older one. He's lost an eye at some point, but he's a regular out there at feeding time.
Fascinating. Man, it's been a lot of fun, brother. So once again, like I was saying, folks, if it was an interview, well, actually it's just a couple of guys that have experience doing this, and just sharing our notes, basically, in our experience. So it's kind of like, thinking about it as a couple of guys who, I guess, are Bigfooters and sitting around the campfire talking. So that's what you got today.
That's how you learn, sharing information and stories.
And so those who are going to complain about hearing my voice, you can tune out and go somewhere else.
There you go.
For the rest of you, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us, and those who listen.
Absolutely.
And man, I can't wait to talk to you again. It's like for me when I meet a guy like you. Although physically we haven't met yet, but just talking, it's like going to a family reunion and talking. It's like, hey, this is what you go through. I go through the same thing. You're not alone, man.
There, hopefully before too long, me and Tim, he's pretty much my adopted son. We got some more pictures and some pretty concrete evidence we're going to be bringing to the table before too long. It's probably going to sway a large part of the public's opinion on the existence of these creatures. So, everybody buckle up because what we're going to bring to the table is going to be kind of, history changing, I hope.
Cool. Awesome, man. All right, man. We'll talk to you later. I'll call you. I'll let you know when this is downloaded on YouTube, and maybe we'll do it again next week or 2 weeks from now.
Absolutely. Anytime. Give me a shout. Let me know when you're down for it.
Yeah, it's when recharge your battery. Say, hey, this is what's happened in the past couple months, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Take care, man.
All right. You have a good night.
God bless you, bro.
You too, man. Bye.